Hi, this is Chris from the Project Management Guide. This video is called How to Manage Project Risk. 5 steps to get your project risks under control. So if you're running projects, then you need to manage risk on your projects. And it's a key skill as a project manager to really manage risk properly and keep them under control on your projects. And projects by their nature are risky, so they have lots of moving parts. There's lots of different parties involved typically. So it's quite a job to keep all of the risks under control and managed effectively. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 steps to help you manage risk on your project. So the first step is to identify and assess the risk on your project. And you do that by talking to people. So the first thing that you do is, what I tend to do in projects is at my project kickoff, I use maybe an hour or so to get everybody involved in the project on both sides, on the project delivery team and on the team where the project is being delivered to. I get people to write down what their concerns are, what they think the risks are on the project. It's actually a really good way to start to understand what the potential risks on your project. So that's a really good thing to do. And once you've got the project running, you keep on asking people. So you continuously throughout the project assess or identify any new risks that come up and assess the risks as you go along as well. And you also need to create an environment where people working on the project will actually raise the risks to you. So you want the risks, you want people to come forward and tell you what the risks are. And when we're identifying the risks, we need to write them down clearly and unambiguously. I've got a simple formula for that in one of the other videos that I've got, so you can take a look at that one if you want to understand that. And you want the risks written down so they're simple to understand and they're granular. So it's one risk, and quite often they can be quite complex. But it's really important that you make them really clear so that people can understand them. When we come to assess the risk, we're trying to understand what the likelihood of the risk happening is. So what's the probability, or what's the level of uncertainty that we're trying to understand here? And then we're trying to understand what the impact of the risk is. So should the risk come to happen, we need to understand what the impact is, on people and resources and time and cost, etc. And we typically we manage these, or we rate these on a scale of 1 to 3 or 1 to 5, so that we can prioritize which risks we need to focus on. So step 2 in our risk management process is that we need to track and monitor our risks. So we need to write them down first of all. So we need to write them down. Typically we'd write them in a risk log or a risk register, and you can just use a simple spreadsheet for that if it's, that's a very simple method of doing it. And there's plenty of other tools that you can use as well, but the most simple is a spreadsheet. And I've got other videos on that to help you as well. And then once you've got all your risks identified and assessed, then you need to keep your risk log up to date. So you need to be continually talking to people that are working on the project throughout the project. What is the current state of the risks? Have we mitigated them? Are there new risks that have come along? And so you need to review the risk regularly, and we need to understand whether there's been any change or not. And typically it's worth looking at the risk register is a working document. So you need to be updating it all the time. You need to be talking to people about what the risks are continuously. It's no good just having a meeting once a fortnight and just doing risk in that meeting in that time. You really need to be, as a project manager, you need to be talking to the people involved in the project all the time to understand where the risk is in the project. Step 3 in our process is to be proactive. So, as I've said, risk management in projects is a constant process. It's not an event that you do every couple of weeks. It's a continuous process that you work on throughout the project, and you're always working on the risks and mitigation of the risks. And it's really important that if you've got a risk that's starting to build up, then you act now on that risk. Don't wait I've seen this many times where people wait for risks and they gradually get worse and worse and worse, and then all of a sudden they're really in a firefighting situation. If you're on top of your risks, and you shouldn't need to get into a firefighting situation quite so often. Now, every now and again, some things do come up that you can't manage and you can't keep under control, but the more of these other ones that you've got under control, the easier you'll find to manage your risk. And you need to be asking people all the time working on your project about the risk, and you need to explicitly ask them about what they think the risks are. So people quite often assume that you understand what the risk is, so you do have to dig in a little bit sometimes and really talk to them and try and understand what the risks are on the projects, and not assume that they quite often assume that you understand the risk, and that's not always the case. So if you misunderstand it, then you don't behave, or you don't seek to mitigate it as you probably should do. And you need to be planning ahead and thinking ahead all the way through to manage the risk. So step 4 in our process is to prioritize the risks. So when we rate our risks, we rate them as low, medium or high impact, low, medium, high likelihood. So we need to keep focused on the most important risks, or the ones that are high likelihood and high impact. We need to be focused on those, and we need to prioritize our efforts on those risks. We do need to keep an eye on the other risks and make sure they're not sort of gradually increasing as well, but we really need to keep focused and prioritize working on those key risks. And finally, step 5 in our risk management process, we really need to communicate. So transparency on risk management is really important. It's really good to share our risks. We need to be communicating with our project sponsor and our customer and our stakeholders. We need to communicate the risks at the right level to the right people, and we need to obviously focus on the key risks. So we don't want to be bothering those people with the small, low-level risks. So we want to make sure that they understand all the way through the project what the risks are on the project. And you need to simplify. Quite often, you need to simplify those risks for people so that they understand them, and they also might be able to help you to mitigate those risks as well. So if they know about the risks themselves, then they can help to mitigate the risks for you as well, to plan ahead for those risks. And be level-headed a bit when you're communicating these risks as well. Don't panic or create panic by communicating the risks. And it's really important that you escalate and get any help that you need to manage these risks. And you need to discuss the mitigation plans with the stakeholders and everybody involved in the project. So that was a simple 5-step process for managing risk on your projects. So the first step was to identify and assess the risk. The second one is to track and monitor the risks. The third one was to be proactive and take action on the project risks right now. The fourth one was to prioritize the risks, and the fifth one is to make sure that you communicate what the risks are to everybody, particularly the sponsor and the key stakeholders, the customers on your project, to make sure that everybody's clear on what the risks are, so that they can prepare for them and there's no surprises if these risks come to be. So thanks for watching the video. You can subscribe by clicking on the button below. I've got loads more project management content. Lots more videos for you to look at, so please subscribe. Please leave any comments below. I'd love to hear about how you're getting on with your risk management, etc. And if you want to find out more information, you can find us at the Project Management Guide. I'll see you in the next video.